On PM Express tonight, referendum blues, a yes or a no, and the parties are still involved in a locked-on situation. The NDC's position and fallout is what we're going to be looking at. And many say that until the NDC's press conference last week, many thought this was smooth sailing to an emphatic yes vote, and then the NDC press conference changed it all. And so we're going to get into that a bit more tonight. The two major political parties have taken entrenched positions. We know the NPP is for a yes, the NDC is for a no. That's splitting heads there. And the NDC is strongly campaigning for a no during the referendum, which of course is one of the things that some say our democracy needs. They explain that a yes vote will further polarize an already divided country along political lines. The NPP a few days ago held a press conference to swipe at the NDC, accusing them of hypocrisy, among other things. There have been several fallouts because some NDC MPs initially rebelled against the party's position. They were opposed to a no vote, and Ras Mubarak, as you see him there, was the only voice that came forward publicly to state his disagreement with his party. Well, there were consequences for that, following the NDC's announcement of the sanctions for any member of the party who departs from the party position. He himself was called before a National Executive Committee meeting and, of course, had to fall in line later on with an apology. The civil society groups, including the CDD, have called on the two political parties to find a way to sit down and talk ahead of the 17 December referendum, because they believe that's the only way they can build consensus. You know, there are two things that are going to happen this year. The referendum is about 55-3, which essentially is going to ask you to say yes or no when it comes to whether or not we should have political parties involved in local assembly elections. And then there's 2-4-3-1, which essentially Parliament will do, and that will take away the president's power to appoint MMDCEs. So the big game changer is NDC's position as expressed in the press conference last week, right? We have to ask that question. We're going to evaluate their position and look at the fallouts thereof and ask if, with, well, just over 20 days to go, can they find a way to build consensus with the NPP on this matter? The NPP has reached out to them this week and say, we still want to talk. Rescind your decision. Will the NDC accept that? Stay with us here on PM Express. You're live on PM Express tonight. My guest in the studio is the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress. He's the man to talk to. The NDC has made a lot of headlines recently. Last week, they dropped a bombshell on the referendum, a bombshell that took the NPP by surprise. Civil society groups were all over the place. There was helter-skelter after that press conference that the NDC announced. In fact, before then, everybody thought NPP and NDC somehow were going to campaign together. And then this announcement was made. And in fact, it's the basis of all the heated controversy since last week about the referendum. Some say it's actually good because it's now created a lot of awareness about what is really happening. And Mr. Asiedu Nketia, thank you for your time again on PM Express.
You're welcome.
I must say that you become almost like a regular on this particular show, but for good reason tonight. Yeah. And I just from where I left off, I see in your statement that one of the reasons you did this was you believed there was some misinformation, deliberately, that was happening, and you wanted to step in there and clear it up about there are two different things happening this year. The referendum is totally different from what the parliament is going to do, but you believe there was some confusion, some people were doing this deliberately. Sure. You strongly believe this was deliberate, or simply that the communication had not gone down well?
No, it was deliberate.
Why? Why would the NPP do that?
Because the people who are seen to be propagating that wrong message, they are knowledgeable people by all standards, and so we are entitled to expect that they know what they were talking about. and yet they went ahead to do what they did.
What was the nature of this misinformation that you so was upset about? I mean, what is happening on December 17 that you believe is being deliberately massaged to create a different impression for people?
You see, there are two major issues on the floor. One has to do with whether we will continue electing and appointing DCEs or electing DCEs. That's a separate issue. And the other issue is that we know the Constitution provides that the district assembly elections or local government elections are non-partisan. And then there is an attempt to make them partisan. So these are two issues. But somehow the president and MPP sought to create the impression that the referendum was about making the DCE's position elective, which wasn't the case. And I thought that they knew what they were talking about.
I think now partly thanks to what you did, and civil society guys also jumped in. Now NCCs has put out a lot of communication. The clarity is beginning to settle. Yeah. So let's come to your position, which is an emphatic no. Yeah. One of the primary reasons you asked for the no is because you believe partisanship at that level is inimical to our national interest. It will further divide us, it will further destroy us, because at the national level, you say we've seen the fruits of that. But some say, isn't the main concern winner takes all? Which some say is a reason for the acrimonious partisanship, which a yes vote will fix, because NDC in opposition, if you vote yes, you actually control districts and you win a lot of districts. And so you'll be in government, although you're in opposition. And then that deals with the acrimonious partisanship. You will not be, fighting too hard, because the life doesn't depend on them, because you are in government.
You see, you are lumping too many things together.
I know. There's a lot in there.
Too many things
there's a lot in there.
And so you need to pick them one by one.
Let's start that.
You could have an end state you want to achieve, and then the road that will take you there. You may agree on the end state, but if you choose the wrong route, you will not get to where you want to go to. So our view is that even those who want partisanship, multi-partisanship introduced at the local government level, the route that is being chosen now may not take them there after all. So that's one issue altogether. But the principal point as to whether it is desirable to introduce multi-partisanship in the local level, our answer is no, no, no. Okay, and that is different from the issue as to whether DCEs should continue to be appointed or elected.
Which you support?
And our answer is yes. So, but there was an attempt to lump all this together to create the impression that if you vote yes in this referendum, what it means is that you want DCEs to be elected. And that was the unfortunate impression and falsehood we saw and heard the President of the Republic peddle, and then Mr. John Boadu, who is the General Secretary of the MPP, also peddled. And we thought that it was necessary for us to come and clear the air. Now let's go to the issue as to whether we should introduce multi-partisanship at this local level. And let me begin by saying that I was one of the architects for this, our local government structure as you find it in the Constitution, because I was at the Consultative Assembly. And at the Consultative Assembly, I served on the committee that actually crafted this local government structure. I introduced Common Fund and the others. And then also we crafted provisions about how we want chieftaincy to be seen. So all these things are in one basket. And that if you want to touch one, then you necessarily would have to think through the repercussions on all the others. You know, this country began as a society governed by traditional rulers and so on until colonialism came in. When the colonists came, they even could not do away with the chieftaincy structure. The British, crafty as they were, saw that the chieftaincy institution was so deeply rooted in our culture. So they chose to go by indirect rule. So they ruled through the chiefs. So the chiefs were still there. So over all the years of colonialism, chieftaincy was not significantly impacted negatively. So as at the time they left, we now have a situation where constitutional structures were not properly ingrained in our system, and then the chieftaincy institution had also not been wiped out completely. So you have a system of these two parallel systems. So all governments after independence have tried to find a way of getting some fusion that will allow villages and our communities to run without controversy. So the time I matured to participate in politics, the first appointment I held was the secretary to the Town Development Committee. In those days, the local government structures were called Town Development Committees, where every village will elect committee members, but with the proviso that the chairman of that committee ought to be the chief of the town. So there was an interface that made it possible for the chiefs and then the constitutional structures to coexist without difficulty. Okay, so it has followed like that in one form or the other till we crafted this disassembly concept. So when we're crafting this, we realized that apart from the fact that these two systems exist, there has been attempt after independence to try to, for politicians to try to interfere with the chieftaincy institution, weaken it so that they can have, you know, their way. And the opposite side of it was also that chiefs have tried to enter politics and then take advantage of political power for certain ends. So, and the results of this admixture of chieftaincy and multi-party politics has not boded well with the country at all. So we realized that because we had a situation where when one government is in power, there are a set of chiefs that will support that particular government, go and be praising them all over the place. But when the tables turn, then you see that a new set of chiefs who also support that new system, they go around and in all those communities, all those chiefs are distilled because government reserve the power of recognition of chiefs or derecognition of chiefs. So when my party is in power, I will derecognize all the chiefs who were in power during the MPP's time, for instance, and then the other way around, the same thing. So when we're doing this consistency, we took all these things together and said that let us carefully study this and come out with a structure that can accommodate everybody. One, we must maintain our chieftaincy institution as a very sacred institution, as a major pillar in the peace architecture in the country, so that it will be constitutionally protected, and then politicians will not be able to toy with the institution. But to be able to do that, we needed to also insulate chieftaincy from multi-party politics. So that's why we made two very important clauses that were entrenched. That chiefs should not participate in multi-party politics. At the same time, government should not interfere in the installation or dismissal of chiefs. So when we now came to look at the local government structure, which will be able to accommodate the chiefs and their authority and how they can impact on building a community that will coexist. We then said that if chiefs were not going to be able to participate in multi-party politics, but they still would have a role to play at the local governance, then the way to get a solution is to end multi-party politics at some point, so that local government structures will be done in a non-partisan manner.
That's why it ends at the MPs level, the constituency level. And
that's how we created this thing. So now, fast forward, if somebody wants to introduce multi-party system at the local governance level, you need to sit down and think through what the repercussions will be. So is it the case that if political parties are able to sponsor and elect candidates from unit committee level all the way to district assembly, DCEs upwards, and you have these constitutional structures aligned in such a way that it excludes the chiefs, because we are not touching the constitutional clause that bars chiefs from participation in multi-party. So if you bring multi-party to that village level, it means that chiefs cannot play any role there. So what happens? Would the chiefs be having their traditional authority there, and how does it interface with these constitutional authorities that will go to that level? For instance, if we have to go and do primaries to select candidates for unit committee, area councils and so on to the top, then of course they will owe some allegiance to the political party, and they will be subject to party discipline. Okay, so if we say that this is a party position, and when you go down there and that party position does not sit well with the authorities down there, I mean those who coexist in that village, so which position should prevail? Is it going to be the chief's position, or other opinion leaders' position, or that sole political party position? It is something that we need to sit and think through. Apart from the chiefs, many other people have been barred from participating in multi-party system. You have police, members of the security, civil servants, and all these. All these people are permitted to play a role at the district assembly level and bring their experience to bear in shaping up communities in the way they want to live in. So bringing this thing down there means that they are all going to be excluded. So there are challenges there that we need to sit down and think through. And don't forget that even when we launched this, we promulgated this constitution, we had concerns being raised by the National House of Chiefs that preventing chiefs from participating in multi-party is an infringement on their rights. So they've been fighting this thing all along. Now, if even having given them space to operate at the local level, they still consider it inadequate, for which reason they are fighting for inclusion at the higher levels. What happens if you now go and exclude all of them up to the unit level? What will happen? And the system has benefited enormously with the experience and expertise of chiefs, traditional leaders, and other people at the local level. We have had several chiefs being presiding officers. We have had several chiefs being DCs and so on without any problem, and their contributions have been so useful. Besides that, we have been able to allow some appointments, 30%, to the district assembly. And these appointments are also made in consultation with the traditional authorities and so on. So that is another important interface between the chiefs and the local governance structures. Now, if you are going to go fully, elected, it means all these things are going away.
So that's essential reason why you're opposed to the partisanship.
And all the functions of the district assembly, unit committees, and all those things. Several functions, more than 30 of them. None of them requires multi-party intervention before they could be performed well. Organizing communal labor, registration of deaths and births, and all these things. These are community activities that don't have to get into multi-partyism before they can be performed well.
So that, I guess, one of the key planks that account for the no vote. But however, you are accused of being hypocritical and being deceitful.
Yeah.
Because they point to dialogues where you have campaigned for a yes vote. I want to cite you one of the examples that had come up. This is October 2nd. October 2nd, 2009. It's important for my listeners.
I don't run away from things.
No, I know, but no.
So let me tell you.
No, but I know, but for my viewers, And this is a speech that was read on your behalf by Eric Edem Agbana. He's a deputy national youth organizer, in which he says, and this is an IDEC meeting just 3 weeks ago, really, I mean, October. This is one of the topics that both the NDC and the MPP seem to be in agreement.
Yes.
So I will not want to talk too much about the advantages of having multi-party election at the local assemblies. We are urging our members, and we have asked all our members to also go out and vote for yes when the opportunity presents itself. 3 weeks ago, let's say less than a month ago, that was your position.
That's why I say that don't worry about it. We are not people who run away from what we have said. You see, if somebody is sick with, say, malaria, then you will be thinking about things that medication that will cure the malaria and so on and so forth. That same medication will be completely useless after a death has occurred. NDC is a democratic party. What keeps NDC going is freedom of speech, freedom of debate, and so on and so forth. So when this issue started coming up, and let me tell you, MPP has never, whether as government or party, has never sought to sit down with us or engage us in any discussion as they sought to portray. Wherever we have met has been fora that has been organized by other civil society organizations. And at that point, the party had not decided on anything yet. So individuals within the party were free to project their views as part of the debate. And this was supposed to have been said on my behalf.
Yes.
I have spoken before that, in my personal view, I think that listening to issues about what do you call it, winner takes all, and one other area, those who are saying yes have a point. I have said so. Okay. The national chairman himself had said so on other occasions. But then as the debate went on, and other sides of the argument kept emerging, we said that, look, we cannot allow this thing to degenerate, because there are very knowledgeable people also bringing a cogent argument to enrich the debate. So we think that it is about time we called the second highest decision-making body in the party, that is beside the National Congress, so that we debate these issues properly and try to formulate a party position. There are several issues that may come out that the party will not formulate a position at all. Then we allow members to take their individual positions and run with them. But when some of these issues were coming up, we said, look, let us call a National Executive Committee meeting and debate these things out. So a National Executive Committee meeting was called. and then out of the various views expressed, we saw that there was no congruence of opinions. So we established a committee of experts, bringing up all shades of opinion.
That's interesting. So among the party, there were different views.
Sure.
Okay.
So we established a committee of experts. I served on that committee because I have a background of participating in the Consultative Assembly. Professor Ahoy also participated because he actually was the minister who crafted something similar to what we find in the Constitution. And even when we did the Constitution, he was the same minister who acted, during the transitional period and implemented.
His pedigree in that area is unquestionable.
Yeah. Yes. Then we brought Dr. Callistus Mahama on board, Alhaji Hudu Yahaya, and our former Attorney General and so on. So we sat and then went through the issues one by one, reviewed the whole Constitution to try to understand the implications of a yes vote or a no vote. It is out of this that we crafted a national party a national position for NDC, which was approved by the National Executive Committee, and it was based upon that this referendum was held.
So the majority carried the majority.
So once the referendum, once the press conference was held, it means that the party has spoken. And so that is why we called Ras Mubarak and said that, look, you belong to this party. This is what has come out of a very prolonged debate. We have evaluated all the issues and we have come to the conclusion which we consider to be in the best interest of Ghana. So this is the position.
Just for the records, you were for a yes before the party took the initiative to
I had spoken at some fora supporting some specific arguments that were being canvassed by the yes vote.
Okay.
I had a problem with the what do you call it? I was getting convinced about this ending of winner takes all. But upon a second consideration and upon other aspects of this winner takes all being brought on board, we realized that it is not this yes vote that will end any winner takes all at all.
I'm just asking for the record.
And then again, when you are talking about winner takes all, it doesn't have anything to do with introducing multi-party there. Those who are doing winner takes all, who are arguing on the basis of ending winner takes all, are concerned about election of DCs. But election of DCs don't necessarily have to be on the basis of multi-party.
So were you for a yes?
Come again.
Were you for a yes?
It was not about introducing multi-party at all. If I could remember, all the things that we debated at the various fora, the main focus had to do with whether we should elect DCs or we should appoint DCs.
On partisan lines?
No. There was,
but the quote I read said multi-party local assemblies.
That's how I'm saying that if somebody goes to represent you, he may wish to add his own ideas. When there are no written speeches, he was going to read.
So that doesn't represent your position?
So my position really was on the election, and it still continues to be for the election of DCs.
But you were never for multi-party elections at the local level?
Multi-party elections at the local level, I hadn't taken a decision, to be honest with you, because there are what do you call it?
But you see why that would be difficult for people to accept when this was said on your behalf.
I'm saying that I wasn't speaking. I have sent him to speak, and I have said that.
But you sent him.
Listen, go
with the speech prepared.
Please, if you allow answers to questions.
Which what I'm allowing, just for clarity.
Repeating a question.
It's not repeating. It's for clarity. He went with a prepared speech, which I'm assuming.
With a prepared speech. I've told you, he didn't go with any.
But the video that I've seen, he's reading.
No. Maybe he wrote something by himself. He didn't go with the prepared.
Are you saying that you allowed this person to go without?
Yes, because this is an issue. You call somebody to represent you. and then you brief him what you think are very important to you for him to say. And substantially, he represented what I briefed him about. But
yes. Which was a yes vote.
And I'm saying that, you know, as at that point, there was even confusion as to what yes represented. Because here was a president who was saying that yes.
But you were not confused, were you?
Listen. Here was a president. In fact, the Catholic thing that we attended, I spoke that I was for the election of DCs. It was reported as if the referendum we are going to do, it means the NDC is going to
But Mr. Senegal, you were never confused about what the referendum was about. The yes or no was about whether or not parties should be involved. You were never confused, were you?
I have said that the main focus at that time was as to whether we should elect DCs or not elect DCs.
That's true.
And I told my...
But yes or no was only
yes
about parties
or no
there or
was
not.
about parties.
Yes. And you
parties
said yes.
participating in it.
In that speech,
okay,
on your behalf, it was
and I have
yes.
said that I did not prepare a speech for him to read.
But you said he essentially represented your position.
If you save this time for progress to be made on this discussion, it will help us. But if you hold fastidiously on something, some question, repeating it does not add anything to the question.
It does, because
it doesn't.
You said,
I am saying that first.
You said that it was essentially represented your views.
I said
what he said represented your views, essentially. And a man says, we have asked our people to go out there and vote yes. If essentially represents your view, then that is you saying
I
your
hope
party
you
should
understand
go.
essentially what essentially means.
Yes. In essence, this is your view.
That's the point. It
that
doesn't say that
yes.
in every material particular, it is identical. Because I didn't give him a prepared speech. So don't let us go.
Was this a misrepresentation of you?
Please. I indicated from the beginning that the party had no position. I told him that we put together what do you call it? A constitutional review commission, which report indicated that we should vote for DCs. We did a white paper which accepted the fact that NDC is for DCs. So we are for the election of DCs.
True.
So he can go and represent us for DCs. He came up adding that a multi-party system and all that, maybe those ones came on the floor of the discussion there. I wouldn't know. And I wouldn't fault him because he represented substantially what I asked him to do. But it didn't prevent him from adding whatever he picked from the discussion on the floor. You understand? Because he wasn't reading a speech. So that is why I'm saying that. And we didn't fault him either. Because if he believed in something and the party had not taken a position, he's free to also join the debate by the way he chose. And that's why I'm saying that even in Parliament, when Article 243 came for amendment, we instructed the MPs that they should not let us take the first step until we are able to appreciate the import of what we are doing. So it was premature for them to participate in approval of that amendment to Article 243. And that was
just for our view, Article 243 essentially will take the president power to appoint.
That is precisely will take the president power to appoint DCs. Because you see, then you come to Article 2, this referendum. The referendum is just to amend Article 55.3. 55.3 touches on election of DCs tangentially. Okay? Because Article 55 deals with the functions of political parties, what political party can do. It is not about local government elections at all. You understand? The main article that deals with how local government elections ought to be conducted, how candidates ought to present themselves, whether they can use symbols of the party or not use symbols of the party. It's Article 248. 248 has not featured in any of these, either the parliamentary process of amendment or referendum. So if you go and amend through referendum, Article 55(3), which says that political parties can engage in policy formulation, blah, 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 in, sponsoring candidates for all elections apart from local government elections. So you are going to remove apart from local government elections, thinking that you are going to achieve a multi-party local government election. You are not. Without touching 248, which tells you that a candidate for a local government elections must present himself as an individual. He cannot use party symbol. He cannot be on campaign on party platform. He cannot do this ABC. That one is left intact. You are not touching it. So the referendum does not take you where you want to be. You understand? And then, so in Parliament, they were just talking about 243 that says that presidents appoint DCs. So president is no longer, by amending it, president is no longer going to appoint DCs. Fine. So DCs will be elected. Then you amend this one too and say that parties can sponsor candidates. Okay? When you say parties can sponsor candidates, even the 55(3), the formulation of the referendum question itself is so ambiguous that you may have a situation where parties can sponsor candidates, but parties cannot, the same parties who are sponsoring the candidate cannot campaign for those candidates.
Because the law is so...
because they say that the debates and other things that they can engage in should be the issues at the national level, not the local level. But campaigning at the local level and local campaign platforms are local issues. So are we going to have a situation where you will be thinking that you have amended the constitution to bring multi-partisanship there, but in effect, even if they say parties can sponsor a candidate, the party cannot campaign for the candidate. And then 48, which has not been touched at all, the 248, which has not been touched at all, now tells you that the candidate should present himself as an individual. The candidate cannot use party symbol. The candidate cannot be on any party platform. It defeats the purpose. It defeats the purpose. So that's why I'm saying that it's like you are going to Kumasi and you are seen traveling along a Flower Road. So that is what the referendum...
Because you brought up Parliament, I want to stay there for a while. Because when this matter came up on 29th July, this is a hands out of the House on that day. This is your minority leader speaking on the matter. The people, quote, the people may decide otherwise, and you cannot determine it. So the support of those of us on this side of the House is conditional to the fact that DCEs should be elected, but they should be elected on partisan lines. That is the principle we will support and work with.
Yes.
That is your minority leader.
It doesn't change anything. All this happened before the party took a position.
Was he expressing, because you said you indicated to the minority
that they should not approve
on the first exactly.
Yes,
on this one, was he speaking representing what the party's wish was?
The party had not taken a position. Okay. So that's why it was because of this acting at and speaking at cross purposes.
But he was speaking for the entire minority.
No,
now.
He says he was speaking for the entire minority. The minority caucus in Parliament is not the entire party.
Okay, so understand. So this was the minority's view in Parliament, and not the party's view.
Precisely.
As of that time.
Because you see,
but that's strange to believe. Listen, how does that work?
That is democracy.
When the entire minority has a view that the party's view doesn't represent.
Democracy at work. So until you formulate a party position, sitting as a general secretary, how can you be determining what each member of Parliament should be saying and should not be saying on the floor of the House? That is not democratic.
But it's a body position.
So what democracy means is that let debate happen, because debate is the soul of democracy. And debate is based on the principle that from clashes of opinion, truth emanates. So let the debate go on. We are not a party of what do you call conformists. We allow debate. But the debate happens before a party decision is taken. once the debate has been exhausted and a party position has been crafted,
everybody must fall in line.
Then you must fall in line.
You have fallen in line as well.
If you go against it,
yeah,
then there must be consequences. That's why you saw us calling our honorable.
What is going to happen to him, though? Your honorable member.
He has since
apologized
and apologized.
Does that end?
We are going to look at. We have to meet again to look at to review the situation, because this was a time we met in a representative capacity of the entire body. So we will now take the documentation, apology and everything, and take it back and see where.
So his fate hasn't been decided yet?
Because we haven't completed the process. Because you see, in the Constitution, punitive measures range from caution or reprimand, caution,
all the way to expulsion.
All the way to expulsion. So we'll look at it and see, because this is somebody speaking after a party decision has been taken.
It's a democracy. Can't he have a mind of his own?
We are saying, why not?
Even after the party is taking a position.
I hope that when Parliament decides on a law and passes it, you can just walk out and say, I'm a member of Parliament. My position is against the law. So I'm not going.
That's a law.
That is the law of the party. So you cannot say that after a decision, because you spoke against a particular bill, it means when it becomes law, you can say that as a citizen, you will abide by that.
Just apologize. Just let him go. Why do you have to meet again?
You are not part of our party. When we meet, let the party decide how best to deal with the issue. So that is it. So, and I want to re-emphasize the point. Now you see, if you are a party and you don't allow debate, then you are not a party. You are a bunch of conformists. And then your party is about to die. So when issues come up, we allow people free to express their opinions one way or the other. And then Democrats are people who, when they bring their first opinions, they listen to other opinions, and as you move along, it shapes your perception about the issue at stake. It is only, somebody has said, I don't know how to quote it, it says that it's only fools who will not change their minds in the face of further and better evidence. And for anybody to say that, I've taken my decision, so further facts confuse me, then he's about to commit suicide.
Let me ask you something. Let me ask you something about something you said.
So this issue about MPP not spending time canvassing the cogent reasons why they think yes vote is necessary, and try to attack the arguments being raised. And they choose to spend their time attacking individuals. This man has stabbed me on my back. This man hasn't. Since when have they involved us in their decision?
That's the question I'm asking you, because
they have not involved us
on the 10th of June, 2019.
Yes.
The MPP claims there was a meeting at Jubilee House.
Where?
For Jubilee House.
Involving who and whom?
Here's the thing. For a comprehensive deliberation referendum, there too, he said all the parties were in agreement of yes. He says at that meeting, the NDC was represented by yourself, whilst the PNC was represented by General Secretary Bernard Mona. On the 10th of June,
let me tell you,
2019. Were you part of this meeting?
I don't remember. That
10th of June.
Listen, I don't remember.
You've not been to Jubilee House this year?
2019. 2019.
2019, yes.
I don't remember.
You haven't been to Jubilee House this year?
I was there. The last time I went there to participate in any deliberation was when we were going to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Fourth Republic. That was 2017. And when we were there, we were invited to talk about the program for the Jubilee celebration, the Silver Jubilee celebration or whatever it is. Then whilst we were there, they tried to introduce some other subjects, and I told them
the referendum didn't come up?
No. And I told them that I cannot participate in this type of debate because I was invited to come and talk about the program for a celebration of an anniversary. And so I didn't come here with any mandate to discuss any other issues.
So you didn't participate in that part of the conversation?
Everything we said there came on television. Everybody saw it. Everybody saw how I... So if anybody is talking about a meeting at Jubilee House 2019, that person must be dreaming.
Okay.
That I participated, then that person must be dreaming. Let them bring the evidence. And I am saying that on this particular referendum, nobody, whether in government or at the level of party, has sought to invite us to sit anywhere to try and look at the issues in a bipartisan manner. Never. So those who are lying to the population must go and purge themselves.
Okay.
They must go and purge themselves. And let them understand that if they are interested in consensus building, this is the wrong way to go about it. Completely wrong way to go about it. I
want to take a quick break. When I return, I'll pick up on the last point General Mosquito just made about the consensus. To this week, the NPP held a press conference. Yes, I've made the point about the adjectives they had used about him being hypocrite and all. But they also, at the end, extended a hand of friendship, as they called it, and appealed to the NDC to rescind their decision and come to the table. Will they accept that? Stay with us. You're still live on PM Express. My guest in the studio is the General Secretary of the National Democratic Congress. He is obviously always a man in the eye of the storm because he's the chief scribe of the party, and they've taken the position that he needs to defend, a position that some say has not always been so. You've heard me put those questions to him and his explanation about the party's eventual decision overruling everything that anybody had expressed before then. But let me come to something you said before the break, which is that the NPP had not engaged you.
Yes.
Well, this week at the press conference, they appealed to you, they said they extended a hand of friendship to you to come to the table, rescind your decision to campaign for a no. Will you accept that? They must
apologize first for claiming to have engaged us when they have not. You see, because if you are going for equity, you must go with clean hands. You cannot be lying your way onto a discussion table. Okay. You are saying that they called a meeting, including me,
on the 10th of June in the presidency,
at the presidency,
at the Jubilee House,
and we discussed election or whatever
of a referendum.
We discussed referendum on multi-party basis, and I'm saying that that is a lie.
Okay.
That is a lie. We're not involved in anything.
So you're not sitting with them?
Come again.
You will not sit. You will not accept the extension of hand to sit with you.
If they present it properly, why not? We are all in the service of the nation. All that we are doing, we want what is good for the nation. We think that what they are bringing up will land us in a Brexit situation where we will run into some constitutional difficulties, and it will be difficult for us to come out. So it is better for us to discuss the issues. First of all, take the constitution and look at what you want to do now through this referendum. What the implications are on the other parts of the constitution. Because you see, constitution making is not just about making a list of articles. After you've done all that, after we did all that, we spent about 1 month to look at the internal consistencies within the document, so that it does not contradict itself. So there may be one article here which has linkages with 4 or 5 other articles in the Constitution. So if you are going to do one, and you don't sit down to bring together all the consequential amendments and begin to try to do something about it. And then the step you are taking, one of the repercussions of whatever they want to do now, which I'm sure they haven't thought through, is that district assembly elections are all financed by the state. Now you are going to make everything partisan.
Who's going to finance it?
Parties. So have they discussed who is going to finance?
But the NDC is not opposed to further dialogue, are you?
Oh, no. But the democracy is about dialogue.
So you're willing to sit with the NDC?
Sit with them, but they must correct the mistakes first, and then let them come to.
But that's a condition. So there's a conditional.
I'm saying that you are going into election in 20 days.
Yeah.
with a wrong referendum question, which will land us into some more difficulty. So withdraw that referendum question. Let us sit down. Let us even sit down to formulate a referendum question. Who decided on the date for the referendum? Who decided on the question? Who decided on the colors? Who decided that?
The Electoral Commission.
The Electoral Commission as an independent umpire. Have you seen the advert? Which is essentially a campaign for yes. So who is the referee of the referendum? And then you see the deputy chairperson in charge of operations, who is essentially the man to organize the elections.
That, by the way.
He himself, he said it in TV3.
No, he says it was taken out of context.
Why is it that he's the only person taken out of context? The first statement he made on CTFM was that NDC is the greatest threat to democracy in Ghana.
That's an issue
challenged him and wrote petitions and so on and so on. And they say, oh, out of context. Then your next statement is that people should go and vote for yes, when you are supposed to be the referee. Can you rely on such a person to hold an impartial election?
So, Mr. Senator,
and then when they did the referendum for the regional creation with people stuffing ballot boxes and so on, then the president was the first.
He's not here to defend himself.
The president was the first to congratulate them for a good job.
He's not here to defend himself.
That is why they are finding themselves in this situation, because the president knows that voting yes has nothing to do with appointment or election of MMDCEs. And yet, we saw him saying.
Finally, because of time, you have 20 days to go. Will anything change between now and then in your position? Or are you open to new information and amending your position?
We have taken...
Because there are calls on you to rescind.
Who is making that call?
Oh, MPP is asking to rescind.
It's like telling NDC people that don't vote for NDC, come and vote for MPP. So it doesn't...
So nothing...
The argument, that sounds very offensive as far as I'm concerned. You mentioned this winner takes all. Does the president need a referendum to begin implementing a non-winner takes all?
But that will be fundamental.
It is not fundamental. Look, if you know that it is wrong for one person to exercise those powers and you have the powers, you should begin sharing those powers.
No,
but his conduct so far has indicated that he even wants more powers than the Constitution gives him, because he has tried to invade the territories of other
I must say that this is a debate that obviously won't end. As we approach the
let him appoint 17. Let him appoint 50 DCEs from CPP, 50 from PNC, 50 from NDC, and then he will now say that he's worried that in his absence, his successor may not follow it. So let us change the law.
That is why he says change the law. He says no. But I'm grateful that you join us. That's Asiedu Nketia. Always exciting to talk to him. And so you've heard the arguments. You make up your mind about the NDC's position. My name is Evans Mensah. Enjoy the rest of it.